Ambassador Lyra Vance had dreamed of this moment since she was a little girl watching the stars from her bedroom window. She stood in the great hall of the Galactic Council, a chamber so massive that clouds formed near its ceiling. 12 ancient species sat in towering seats arranged in a circle, each one representing civilizations that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Before humans had even invented fire, Lyra wore Earth's formal diplomatic uniform. It was simple compared to the flowing robes and glittering armor of the alien delegates around her. She felt small standing in the center of the chamber, but she kept her back straight and her voice steady. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I thank the Council for granting us observer status, she said. We come in peace, seeking friendship and cooperation with all species. A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Lyra a moment to realize they were laughing. High Counselor Xyrith of the Etherian Dominion leaned forward in his seat. He was ancient beyond measure, his translucent body glowing with soft blue light. How charming, he said. The primitives have learned to speak. More laughter followed. Lyra felt her cheeks burn, but she did not look away. The Vorthani delegate was the loudest in his amusement. Commander Drax was a massive creature, covered in thick scales, with 4 arms and eyes that burned like hot coals. His species had conquered dozens of worlds and believed that strength was the only law that mattered. Observer status. Drax repeated with a sneer. That means you may watch us rule, little human. You may not speak unless spoken to. You may not vote. You are guests in our galaxy, and you will remember your place. Lyra wanted to argue. She wanted to remind them that humanity had achieved faster than light travel in just 300 years. She wanted to tell them about human art and music and literature, but she had been trained for this moment. She knew that patience was more valuable than pride. We understand, she said simply. We are grateful for the opportunity to learn. The council moved on to other business, and Lyra was forgotten. She stood in the shadows at the edge of the chamber, watching and listening. She learned that the galaxy was not the peaceful community she had hoped for. It was a place of old rivalries and careful alliances, where the strong took what they wanted, and the weak survived by staying quiet. Earth had 12 colonies, spread across nearby star systems. The largest was on Proxima Centauri b, a world that humans had transformed from a barren rock into a green paradise. 43,000 people lived there. Farmers and scientists, teachers and children, all building a new future for humanity among the stars. Commander Drax had noticed these colonies. He saw that humans had no allies, no powerful friends to protect them. He saw that Earth's military was tiny compared to the Vorthane war machine. And he saw an opportunity. 3 weeks after Lyra's first council appearance, she received an emergency communication in the middle of the night. She rushed to the Earth Embassy, where her staff had gathered around a holographic display. Their faces were pale with shock. What happened? Lyra demanded. No one could speak. They simply pointed at the display. Lyra watched the recording in silence. Vorthani warships appeared in orbit above Proxima Centauri b. There was no warning, no demand for surrender, no communication at all. The ships simply opened fire. The colony's small defense force tried to fight back, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Vorthani weapons tore through their shields like paper. On the surface, people ran for shelter that did not exist. Families huddled together in their homes. Children cried for parents who could not save them. The bombardment lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, nothing remained but smoking craters and ash. 43,000 human beings had been murdered. The youngest victim was 3 months old. The oldest was 97. The Vorthani broadcast the destruction across every communication channel in the galaxy. Commander Drax appeared on screen, his scaled face twisted in triumph. Let this be a lesson to all primitive species, he announced. The galaxy belongs to the strong. Know your place or be destroyed. Lyra stood frozen. She could not breathe. She could not think. All she could see were the faces of the dead. She had visited that colony just 2 months ago. She had held a baby in her arms and promised the parents that humanity's future was bright. Now that baby was dead. Now they were all dead. Her communication device buzzed. The council was calling an emergency session. They wanted Earth's representative to attend. Lyra understood what they expected. They wanted to see a human break down and cry. They wanted her to beg for mercy, to plead for protection, to prove that humans were exactly as weak as they believed. Lyra walked into the council chamber with dry eyes. Every alien gaze fixed upon her. Commander Drax sat in his seat with his arms crossed, looking satisfied. The other delegates watched with curiosity, waiting for the show. High Counselor Zereth spoke in a voice dripping with false sympathy. Ambassador Vance, we have heard about the unfortunate incident at your colony. The council offers its condolences for your loss. Lyra said nothing. She stared at Drax. Perhaps, Zereth continued, this is a good time for Earth to reconsider its position in the galaxy. The Vorsani Empire has offered to take your remaining colonies under their protection, in exchange for certain ... resources. They wanted Earth to surrender. They wanted humanity to become slaves, and they expected Lyra to accept because she had no other choice. Lyra looked around the chamber. She saw contempt in every alien face. She saw amusement, pity, and satisfaction. Not one of them felt sorry for the dead. Not one of them thought the attack was wrong. To them, humanity was nothing. Human lives were worthless. Something changed inside Lyra at that moment. The fear and grief that had filled her heart went cold. Her hands stopped shaking. Her mind became clear and sharp like a blade. She turned to face Commander Drax directly. The massive alien met her gaze with a mocking smile. You have 5 words, Drax said. Make them count. Little human. Lyra's voice was calm and steady. It carried across the silent chamber without emotion, without anger, without any hint of the storm building behind her eyes. You will regret this choice. Then she turned and walked out of the chamber. She did not look back. She did not answer the questions shouted after her. She simply vanished into the corridor and was gone. The council erupted in laughter. Commander Drax slapped his massive hands together in amusement. Regret, he bellowed. The primitive threatens us with regret. The laughter continued for a long time. The delegates returned to their business, already forgetting about the humans and their dead colonists. It was a small matter. It's a minor entertainment in the long history of the galaxy. They did not notice that. Ambassador Vance had sent a single coded message before leaving the chamber. They did not know that the message had reached Earth in seconds, and was now being read by every military commander on the planet. The message contained only 2 words: begin preparations. Far across the galaxy, humanity had stopped crying. Now they were planning, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The Galactic Council expected immediate retaliation from Earth. Every species that had ever been attacked responded the same way. They gathered their forces, made angry speeches, and launched desperate attacks that ended in total defeat. It was the natural order of things. The weak challenged the strong crushed them. Commander Drax ordered his fleet to defensive positions around Vorthani space. He prepared speeches for the victory celebration that would follow. He even commissioned a statue of himself standing over a defeated human soldier. But nothing happened. 1 day passed, then another, then a week. Earth remained completely silent. No communications came from their embassy. No ships moved in their space. Their remaining colonies went dark, shutting down all external broadcasts. The council grew puzzled. High Counselor Zereth sent messages to Earth demanding a response. The messages were ignored. He sent diplomats to the human embassy. The doors were locked, and no one answered. Perhaps they are too frightened to respond, suggested the delegate from the Krill Collective. Perhaps they have accepted their defeat. Commander Drax was not so sure. He sent spy ships to observe Earth's solar system. The ships reported that human worlds looked normal. People went to work, children attended school, and life continued as usual. But there was something strange in the air, a quiet tension that the spies could not explain. They are planning something, Drax growled at his generals. Find out what. The Vorthani intelligence network was the best in the galaxy. They had agents on 1,000 worlds, access to secret communications, and technology that could crack any code. They turned all of these resources toward understanding what humanity was doing. They found nothing. Weeks turned into months. The silence from Earth continued. It was unnatural, disturbing, and deeply unsettling. Other species began to whisper. What were the humans doing? Why weren't they fighting back? What did they know that the Council did not? Commander Drax began having trouble sleeping. He kept remembering Ambassador Vance's eyes when she spoke those 5 words. There had been no fear in them. No desperation. Only cold, patient certainty. What he did not know was that beneath the surface of Earth, deep inside mountains and under oceans, transformation was taking place. Admiral Chen Weyland stood in a command center buried 3 miles ben. The Himalayan mountains. The facility had been built in secret over 50 years. Designed to survive any attack and coordinate humanity's response to exactly this kind of threat, around him stood the finest. Military minds on Earth, generals and admirals, scientists and strategists, all gathered for a single purpose. On the walls hung photographs of the Proxima colony. The faces of the dead looked down at them. 43,000 reasons to succeed. The Council thinks we are primitives, Admiral Chen said quietly. They think we will react with emotion, rush into battle, and die with honor. That is how every other species has responded to aggression. That is what they expect. He pressed a button, and a holographic map appeared in the center of the room. It showed Vorthani's space in perfect detail. Every planet, every military base, every shipyard and supply line was marked and labeled. How do we have this information? Asked General Maria Santos, commander of Earth's ground forces. We have been preparing for this moment for 100 years, Admiral Chen replied. Since the first day we learned we were not alone in the universe, we have planned for the possibility that someone would try to destroy us. We have sent probes to every corner of the galaxy. We have developed technology in secret facilities that the Council does not know exist. We have trained agents who have lived among alien species for decades. He zoomed in on the map, highlighting key targets in Vorthani space. The Vorthani believe their military is unstoppable. They have 10,000 warships, hundreds of bases, and weapons that can destroy planets. But they have one weakness. What weakness? Santos asked. Pride. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. They have never faced a true threat. They have never fought an enemy who was willing to wait, to plan, to sacrifice everything for victory. They think war is about strength and numbers. They are wrong. He pulled up another display, showing human military assets. The numbers were small compared to the Vorthani, but the technology was different. Strange ships with angular designs and dark hulls. Weapons that had never been tested in combat. Systems that broke the laws of physics as the Council understood them. For the past 50 years, we have developed stealth technology that makes our ships invisible to every known sensor. We have created computer systems that can infiltrate any network. We have built weapons that strike without warning and leave no evidence. Admiral Chen turned to face his officers. His eyes were hard and determined. The Council expects us to fight a war. We will not give them a war. We will give them an extinction-level event. In shipyards hidden inside asteroids, workers labored around the clock to prepare the fleet. These were not ordinary warships. They were predators, designed for a single purpose: to destroy an enemy before they even knew they were under attack, on dozens of worlds. Human agents who had lived secret lives for years received activation codes. They were teachers and merchants, engineers and servants, all positions that gave them access to sensitive locations. They had waited patiently for this moment. Now they began to move. Intelligence teams mapped every detail of Vorthani military operations. They identified commanders who were corrupt or incompetent. They found weak points in security systems. They discovered schedules and patrol routes. Computer experts designed a virus unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It would spread through Vorthani military networks like a disease, lying dormant until activated. When it woke up, it would turn the Vorthani's own technology against them. Ambassador Lyra Vance returned to Earth to participate in the planning. She brought with her everything she had learned about the Council's politics, the rivalries between species, and the secrets that powerful aliens wanted to keep hidden? 6 council species helped the Vorthani plan the attack, she reported. They provided intelligence, resources, and political cover. They expected to share in the spoils when Earth surrendered. Then they will share in the consequences, Admiral Chen replied. The preparation took 4 months. For months of silence, while the galaxy wondered and worried. For months, while Commander Drax grew paranoid and his allies grew nervous. For months, while humanity transformed from victims into hunters. On the night before the operation began, Admiral Chen addressed his forces one final time. Tomorrow. We teach the galaxy a lesson it will never forget. We did not start this war. We did not want this conflict. But we will end it on our terms. He looked at the faces of the men and women who would carry out the mission. They were determined. They were ready. They were no longer afraid. Remember Proxima, he said quietly. Remember the 43,000? And show no mercy. Across human space, ships powered up their engines. Agents moved into position. Computer systems prepared to unleash digital destruction. The silence was about to break. And when it did, the galaxy would tremble. The Festival of Conquest was the most sacred holiday in the Vorthani Empire. Every year, the entire species gathered to celebrate their military victories and honor their greatest warriors. This year, the celebration was especially grand. Commander Drax had declared a day of feasting to commemorate the destruction of the human colony. On Vorthon Prime, the Empire's capital world, millions of Vorthani filled the streets. Music played from every building. Children wore toy armor and pretended to fight imaginary enemies. Giant screens broadcast images of the Proxima attack, showing the destruction over and over again. Commander Drax stood on a balcony overlooking the main plaza, accepting the cheers of his people. He had been promoted to Supreme Commander for his victory over the humans. Statues of him were being built in every major city. Songs were written about his bravery. He raised his forearms to quiet the crowd. Today we celebrate not just a victory, but a statement to the entire galaxy, he bellowed. The humans thought they could stand among the stars as equals. We showed them the truth. They are insects beneath our feet. The crowd roared with approval. On the edge of the solar system, invisible to every sensor, human ships watched and waited. Captain James Okonkwo sat in the command chair of the stealth destroyer Silent Thunder. His ship was one of 50 positioned throughout Vorthani space. They had been in place for weeks, drifting in the darkness, completely undetected. Status report, he said quietly. All units in position, his tactical officer replied, waiting for the signal. Okonkwo looked at the image of Vorthon Prime on his display. Millions of aliens celebrating the murder of 43,000 innocent people. Children cheering at videos of human colonists dying. He felt no anger anymore. Anger had been burned away during the months of preparation. All that remained was cold determination. His communication panel lit up with a single word, execute. All units, Okonkwo said. Operation Silent Thunder is authorized. Begin attack. Cross Vorthane space. Chaos erupted in perfect synchronization. In the main military shipyard orbiting Vorthane Prime, workers were performing routine maintenance on the Empire's newest warships. They did not notice the small devices that had been planted on critical systems. Months earlier by human agents posing as repair contractors, they did not notice until the devices exploded. The shipyard broke apart in a cascade of fire and debris. 40 warships under construction were destroyed in seconds. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. A new star appearing in the sky during the celebration. Commander Drax stared upward in confusion. What is happening? Before anyone could answer, similar explosions lit up the sky. Secondary shipyards, fuel depots, weapons storage facilities, all of them erupting in flames. Human saboteurs had spent months placing charges in exactly the right locations. Now those charges were doing their work. Then the virus woke up. Vorthani military networks were considered unbreakable. They used encryption so complex that even their own scientists did not fully understand it. But human programmers had spent years studying captured Vorthani technology. They had found weaknesses that the Vorthani did not know existed. The virus spread through every connected system in seconds. Navigation computers crashed. Weapon systems locked up and refused to respond. Communication networks filled with garbage data. Ships that were flying suddenly lost control and tumbled through space. In the main command center on Vorthan Prime, officers watched their displays go dark one by one. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Alarms screamed from every direction. And through the chaos, a single message appeared on every screen. 43,000 lives. This is your invoice. Commander Drax grabbed a communication device. All ships report. What is happening? No one answered. The communication network was dead, above the planet. The first human warships dropped their stealth fields and appeared on Vorthani sensors. The defenders stared at their screens in disbelief. Where had these ships come from? How had they gotten so close without being detected? The human fleet did not waste time with warnings or demands. They simply opened fire. Human weapons were different from anything the Vorthani had faced before. Instead of brute force energy blasts, they used precision strikes that targeted specific systems. Shield generators exploded. Engine cores failed. Weapons arrays were sliced away with surgical accuracy. Vorthani warships that tried to fight back found their targeting systems unresponsive. Their missiles flew in random directions or exploded in their tubes. Their engines fired at the wrong moment, spinning ships out of control. The virus had turned their own technology into their enemy. In orbit around a dozen Vorthani worlds, the same scene played out. Human ships appeared from nowhere and systematically destroyed every military target they could find. They did not attack civilian areas. They did not bomb cities or kill innocent people. They had a list of targets. They hit every single one with ruthless efficiency. Captain Okonkwo guided his ship through the wreckage of a Vorthani battle station. Escape pods tumbled past his windows, filled with survivors fleeing the destruction. He let them go. They were not his targets. Enemy flagship identified, his tactical officer reported. Commander Drax's personal vessel. It's trying to retreat. Okonkwo studied the display. The massive Vorthani command ship was limping away from the battle, its engines damaged and its weapons offline. Drax was trying to escape the disaster he had created. No, Okonkwo said quietly. He doesn't get to run. The silent thunder accelerated toward the flagship. Drax's ship tried to defend itself, but its systems were crippled. Human weapons tore through its hull like it was made of paper. On the bridge of the dying flagship, Commander Drax watched his empire crumble. His crew was dead or dying. His ship was breaking apart. And on his screen, human ships continued their relentless attack. A communication window opened. The face of Admiral Chen Weyland appeared. Commander Drax, the human said calmly. My name is Admiral Chen. I wanted you to see my face before the end. How? Drax managed to say. How did you do this? You made a mistake, Admiral Chen replied. You thought silence meant weakness? You thought patience meant fear? You were wrong.
We are the greatest military power in the galaxy.
You were the greatest military power in the galaxy. That was 72 hours ago. Admiral Chen's voice remained steady. In the past 3 days, we have destroyed 80% of your fleet, all of your shipyards, and most of your military infrastructure. Your empire will take decades to recover. If it recovers at all, Drax's ship shuddered as another explosion ripped through its hull. This is impossible, Drax whispered. You are primitives. You are nothing. You're patient, Admiral Chen replied. We are strategic, and we never forget those who hurt us.
The communication ended.
Seconds later, the flagship exploded in a ball of fire. Commander Drax, the Butcher of Proxima, was dead. Across Vorthani space, the attack continued for another 12 hours. Human ships moved methodically from target to target, leaving nothing but wreckage behind. They broadcast their message continuously, making sure the entire galaxy could hear. When it was over, the Vorthane Empire lay in ruins. Their military was shattered. Their pride was broken. And in the council chambers, 12 ancient species watched the reports in stunned silence. The humans had not fought like primitives. They had not rushed into battle or died with foolish honor. They had planned, waited, and struck with devastating precision. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake, and now they had to face the consequences. Emergency. Alarms echoed through the Galactic Council chambers for the first time in 3,000 years. The massive hall that had witnessed countless treaties and declarations was now filled with panic and confusion. Delegates shouted at each other in a dozen different languages. Aides rushed back and forth with reports and updates. The ancient dignity of the council had shattered like glass. High Counselor Xerath demanded order. But no one was listening. The reports coming in from Vorthani space were beyond anything they had imagined. 80% of the Vorthani military destroyed. Every shipyard reduced to rubble. The Supreme Commander killed in battle. And human ships now controlled strategic positions throughout what remained of the Empire. How is this possible? Screamed the delegate from the Krill Collective. The humans have no fleet. They have no military experience. They are primitives. They were primitive, Xerath corrected quietly. His ancient face was troubled in ways that the other delegates had never seen. It seems we were wrong about them. A message arrived from the human government. Ambassador Lyra Vance was returning to the council chambers. She had demands. The news spread quickly. Some delegates wanted to refuse her entry. Others suggested arresting her and holding her hostage. But cooler heads pointed out that human ships were now positioned throughout the galaxy. Any aggressive action against the ambassador might trigger another wave of attacks. When Lyra Vance walked into the council chamber, she was not alone. A squad of human soldiers in black armor accompanied her, their weapons visible and ready. They were not threatening anyone directly, but the message was clear. Humanity was no longer asking for permission. Lyra looked different than she had months ago. The young, hopeful diplomat who had stood in this chamber seeking friendship was gone. In her place was a woman with hard eyes and a voice like steel. "High Counselor," she said, not waiting for permission to speak. "Thank you for seeing me." Xerath studied her carefully. "You have caused quite a disruption, Ambassador. The Council demands an explanation for this unprovoked attack on the Vorsane Empire." "Unprovoked?" Lyra raised an eyebrow. "The Vorthani murdered 43,000 of my people without warning or justification. They broadcast the massacre across the galaxy as entertainment. And you call our response unprovoked?" "The Vorthani action was regrettable," Xerath said carefully. "But it was within their rights as a sovereign power dealing with a primitive species." "Primitive." Lyra let the word hang in the air. "Tell me, High Counselor, does the wreckage of the Vorthani fleet look like the work of primitives?" No one answered. The silence stretched on for several long moments.
Not.
Lyra pressed a button on her wrist device, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed documents, communications, and financial records, hundreds of files scrolling past too fast to read. "Before we discuss terms," Lyra continued, "I want to show the Council something interesting. Our intelligence teams recovered these files from Vorthani military computers. They document the planning and execution of the Proxima massacre." She highlighted several specific documents. These records show that the Vorthani did not act alone. 6 other Council species provided support for the attack. The Krill Collective shared intelligence about our colony's defenses. The Moroth Federation provided funding, the Selenari Dominion offered political cover, and 3 others contributed in various ways. Chaos erupted in the chamber. The accused species shouted denials. Other delegates demanded to see proof. Arguments broke out between former allies. Lyra waited patiently for the noise to die down. "These documents are authentic," she said when the chamber finally quieted. "We have verified them through multiple independent sources. 6 Council species helped plan and execute the murder of 43,000 innocent people. They expected to share in the spoils when Earth surrendered." She turned to face the guilty delegates directly. They could not meet her eyes. "You watched our children die," Lyra said softly. "You celebrated our suffering. You thought you would profit from our destruction." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You were wrong."
High Counselor.
Gareth cleared his throat. "What does humanity want?" Lyra nodded, acknowledging the question. Earth's terms are simple. First, immediate recognition of humanity as a Tier 1 civilization with full council membership and voting rights. A murmur ran through the chamber. No species had ever jumped from Tier 7 to Tier 1. The process normally took centuries of diplomatic negotiation. Second, Lyra continued, full reparations for the Proxima massacre. The families of every victim will be compensated. A memorial will be built on the colony site at Vorthani expense. Third, war crime tribunals for all those responsible for the attack. This includes Vorthani, military commanders, and any council officials who participated in the planning. And fourth, Lyra's voice grew harder. The 6 species who supported the attack will face economic sanctions. They will be barred from voting on any matter involving humanity for the next 50 years. The accused delegates erupted in protest. This is outrageous. You cannot prove these accusations. We will not accept these terms. Lyra simply waited until they finished shouting. You are right, she said calmly. I cannot force you to accept these terms. But before you reject them, I want you to consider something. She pressed another button on her wrist device. A new display appeared, showing the positions of human ships throughout the galaxy. There were dozens of them, scattered near important worlds and strategic locations. Right now, stealth ships are positioned near every homeworld of every species that participated in the Proxima attack. These ships are invisible to your sensors. You cannot detect them. You cannot stop them. The chamber went deathly quiet. We have already demonstrated what we can do to military targets, Lyra continued. We destroyed the greatest fleet in the galaxy in 3 days. We did not harm civilians. We did not bomb cities. We showed remarkable restraint. She let the implication hang in the air. But make no mistake. If you reject these terms and try to threaten humanity again, we will not be so merciful next time. High Counselor Xerath leaned forward. You are threatening the entire Galactic Council. No. Lyra shook her head. I am giving you a choice. You can accept humanity as an equal partner in galactic affairs and help us build a better future together. Or you can continue to treat us as primitives and face the consequences. She looked around the chamber at the faces of the delegates. Some were angry. Some were frightened. Some were calculating the odds and realizing that they had no good options. We did not want this, Lyra said, her voice softening slightly. We came to the stars seeking friendship and cooperation. We hope to learn from your ancient wisdom and share our own unique perspectives. We wanted to be partners. She straightened her shoulders. You chose to make us enemies instead. You taught us that this galaxy only respects strength. So we learned to be strong. She spread her hands. Now we are giving you another chance. Accept our terms, and we can start fresh. Work together as equals. Build something better than what came before. Her eyes hardened again. Reject them, and we will do what we must to protect our people. The choice is yours. High Counselor Xerath was quiet for a long moment. He had ruled this council for 900 years. He had seen species rise and fall. He had navigated countless crises and conflicts. But he had never faced anything like this. He looked at the display showing human ships scattered throughout the galaxy. He thought about the speed and precision of their attack on the Vorthani. He considered the intelligence they had gathered, the secrets they had uncovered, the technology they had developed in secret, and he realized that humanity had been planning for this moment for a very long time. The Council will vote on your terms, he said finally. I recommend that my fellow delegates consider them very carefully. Lyra nodded. Thank you, High Counselor. We will await your decision. She turned and walked out of the chamber, her soldiers following behind her. The doors closed with a heavy thud in the silence that followed. The most powerful beings in the galaxy looked at each other and realized that everything had changed. The primitives had grown up, and now the galaxy had to decide how to live with them. The vote took 3 days. Delegates argued, negotiated, and debated behind closed doors. Old alliances were broken, and new ones formed. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found common ground in their shared fear of humanity. In the end, the result was unanimous. Every single term was accepted. Humanity was elevated to Tier 1 status, the first species in galactic history to skip the centuries-long process of advancement. Earth received a permanent seat on the Council with full voting rights. Reparations were approved for the families of the Proxima victims. War crime tribunals were scheduled to begin within the month. The 6 species who had supported the attack accepted their sanctions without protest. They had seen what happened to the Vorthani. They had no desire to be next. When the results were announced, Ambassador Lyra Vance allowed herself a small smile. It was the first time she had smiled since the night she learned about the massacre. The expression felt strange on her face, like wearing clothes that no longer fit. Admiral Chen watched the announcement from his command center on Earth. Around him, officers and staff members embraced and cheered. They had done the impossible. They had humbled an empire and changed the course of galactic history. But Admiral Chen did not celebrate. He looked at the photographs on the wall, the faces of the 43,000 who had died on Proxima. Their deaths had made this victory possible. Their sacrifice had given humanity the anger and determination to fight back. They deserved to be remembered. 6 months later, a memorial was completed on the surface of Proxima Centauri B. It rose from the ashes of the destroyed colony, a tower of black stone reaching toward the stars. On its surface were carved 43,000 names. Every single person who had died in the attack. The dedication ceremony brought together humans from across the galaxy. Families who had lost loved ones traveled for weeks to attend. Veterans of the campaign against the Vorthani stood in silent formation. Government leaders and military commanders gathered to pay their respects. Admiral Chen stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. The sky above was clear and blue, the atmosphere that human scientists had created from nothing. Behind him, the names of the dead gleamed in the sunlight. "We gather here today to remember," he began, his voice carrying across the silent plaza, "to remember the 43,000 souls who were taken from us without warning or mercy. To remember the children who never got to grow up, the parents who never got to see their families again, the dreamers whose dreams were cut short." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "When the attack happened, the galaxy expected us to break. They expected us to surrender, to accept our place as lesser beings, to quietly disappear into the footnotes of history. They did not understand what they were dealing with." His voice grew stronger. "They did not understand that humans do not break easily, that we have faced extinction before and survived, that we have a capacity for patience and planning that other species cannot comprehend." He looked directly at the news. Cameras that were broadcasting his words across the galaxy. The Vorthani thought they could murder our people and face no consequences. They were wrong. The Council thought they could treat us as primitives forever. They were wrong. And anyone who thinks they can threaten humanity in TH